Put it on the belt, all of it. Slowly. The metallic voice of the security guard cut through the supermarket air like a warning shot. Heads turned. A toddler began to cry. Somewhere near aisle 5, a teenager raised his phone to record. Michael Donahue stood still at the self-checkout exit, a small cart beside him. A can of coffee, a phone charger, a pack of gum. Items under $20 total. He didn't resist, didn't speak. He just looked the guard straight in the eye. Calm, cold, assessing. Do you hear me? Put it on the belt. Michael moved deliberately, placing each item on the checkout belt one by one. No rush, no apology. His movements were mechanical, deliberate, as if he'd practiced them. His face remained unreadable, eyes dry and unblinking. A man in a tight, wrinkled suit rushed out of the stockroom. Manager, late 30s, face flushed, jaw too eager. Caught stealing. Right here. What is it, dementia? Or are you just a thief? The murmurs swelled. Some people were enjoying the show. A woman clutched her purse tighter. A man near the soda coolers shook his head with that smug boomer can't cope look. Someone snorted. Another one whispered, "Poor bastard." Michael said nothing. But his heart was no longer beating like a civilian's. It had dropped into a deeper rhythm, measured, combat-tested. That old beat. It was back. He glanced at the guard, then at the manager. No threat in his posture, but something old stirred behind his eyes. A ghost of something trained, buried. "You're already under arrest," he said, voice even, low. "You just don't know it yet." The manager gave a loud, exaggerated laugh. "Oh, great. Another VA case. What a joke. Somebody call the damn cops." 14 minutes later, they arrived. Not cops. 3 men. Black suits. No visible IDs. They didn't look like supermarket auditors. One silver-haired man held a folder. The second wore mirrored glasses, didn't say a word. The third walked directly to the manager. "Good afternoon," he said smoothly. "We'd like a word. Privately." Michael was already sitting in the security room. Cold metal chair, fluorescent light flickering overhead. The air smelled of ammonia and something stale. A framed quote on the wall read, "Success is a habit." The irony didn't escape him. The guard fidgeted in the corner, rubbing his palms together. "You believe this?" Old guy tried to walk out with a bunch of junk. Last week, some lady tried to sneak in a knife. We gotta be tough, you know? Michael turned his head slowly. Measured. His voice barely above a whisper. The camera only records the front exit. Internal feeds are off the loop. What gets archived is just 11 seconds. Just enough to make someone look guilty. Or disappear. You get that? The guard blinked, confused. What the hell are you talking about? The door creaked open. One of the suited men leaned in, glanced around, then looked at Michael. "Mr. Donahue, we're done here. Everything checks out." Michael rose, adjusted his jacket. Navy style, frayed at the cuffs, but spotless. He paused at the door, looked back at the guard. "Check your electronics inventory. 4th shelf from the bottom. You'll find discrepancies. Product listed in the system, but nothing on the shelf. Start there. That's just the beginning." He walked out, steps quiet but deliberate. Never looked back. Behind him, silence. The tension in the room hung thick as smoke. The red light on the security camera flickered, then went dark. Something had been set in motion. The motel room smelled of bleach and rain. Michael sat on the edge of the bed, jacket draped over the chair, a yellow legal pad balanced on one knee. Beside him, a black Pelican case sat half open, its foam interior carved to fit objects long gone. He scribbled a note. Manager, hostile. Security, reactive. Delay, 1422. Infiltration level, 4. Then he paused, drew a single box, tapped his pen, marked it red. 14 minutes? That was faster than usual. Either someone had been watching in real time, or the store had already been flagged. He reached into the case and pulled out a worn folder marked with a single word: Sentinel. Inside, checklists, maps, QR printouts, photos of store managers, inventory layouts, lists of employee terminations that didn't match public records. This wasn't a job. It was a pattern. Something deeper. And in every city, every store, there was always one manager who reacted too fast. One inventory that didn't align, one shipment that vanished between the loading dock and the register. The knock at the door was soft. 3 taps, then pause. 2 more. Michael didn't flinch. He stood, checked the peephole. A young man in jeans and a windbreaker. Looked like someone's nephew. Probably was. Michael cracked the door. Package drop, you Donahue? Depends on who's asking. The kid smirked and handed him a padded envelope. No label, no signature. Inside, a single USB drive and a folded note. Houston, inventory check. Clock is running. He stared at the note for a moment, then glanced back at the drive. It was marked with a tiny embossed triangle, same as the one etched into his lighter. Someone higher up had taken notice. Michael plugged the drive into the burner laptop. A login prompt blinked. Clearance? He typed it from memory. The screen flickered. Footage filled the screen. Grainy black and white clips, internal feeds from other stores, other cities. Managers who were now missing. Packages rerouted, patterns emerging. It wasn't just a theft ring. It was logistics. Someone was moving more than goods. Through everyday storefronts, testing systems, gauging reactions. And now, they were watching him. Michael leaned back. Guess it's time to make a little noise. Houston was hotter than hell and twice as humid. Michael stepped out of the cab and squinted at the vast beige facade of the retail complex. It was the kind of store that sold everything and nothing. Lawn chairs, laptops, cereal, rifles. The note hadn't said much, just a location and a time window. The implication was clear. This wasn't an evaluation anymore. It was containment. He walked through the automatic doors like a customer. His eyes swept the layout. Cameras in the wrong places. Too many blind zones. End caps piled high with unsold product. Distractions. He passed by the electronics section and found what he was looking for. A man at the returns desk, talking into a headset, but not moving his lips. Manager, mid-40s, eyes like polished stones, no name tag. Michael wandered the aisles for 30 minutes, bought a soda, noticed 2 employees swap shifts without clocking out. Inventory logs on the public terminal showed 3 separate SKUs rerouted through the same internal code. It was 13 hold. Something was moving through this store, and it wasn't groceries. He made his move casually, slipped a portable SDS into his jacket pocket, then headed toward the gardening section, far from the front exits. Just like clockwork, the alert came over the PA system. Security to Zone 4. Repeat, Zone 4. They moved quicker here. That was the first red flag. Michael let them take him. It was part of the act. But when they brought him into the back office, he noticed something wrong. The room had 2 exits. One led deeper into the building. A woman stepped inside. Late 30s, gray blazer, calm eyes. "Mr. Donahue," she said, "you're becoming a liability." Michael tilted his head. "You with Sentinel?" She shook her head. "Not anymore." Then she locked the door. Michael smiled, thin, sharp. "Good," he said. "Neither am I." The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. The door clicked shut behind the woman, and the muffled hum of the store faded. In the sterile back room, silence settled like dust. "Your file reads like a field manual," she said. "Naval electronics, defense contracts, early retirement, then nothing." Michael finished for her. "That's the part you never understood. Some people walk away, and some get walked back in." Michael shifted his weight, keeping his back near the wall, one exit behind him, one ahead. The woman, calm but too still. Not retail, not even corporate. Military, intelligence, private, it didn't matter. "You're not here for shrinkage audits," he said. "Neither were you." She stepped closer, slid a tablet onto the desk, a paused video, grainy footage. Michael leaned forward, not too close. It showed him, at another store, another city, 2 months ago, removing a hard drive from a back office. The footage was clear. He hadn't known that angle even existed. "We've been watching longer than you think," she said. "Your missions, half of them were compromised. The managers, the losses, staged. You were the bait." Michael didn't flinch. But inside, gears locked. Bait? That meant there was a bigger fish, or worse, the trap set for someone else. "You still don't get it," he said slowly. "I never needed the cover. I needed the access. And now I've got it." He flipped open his watch. A modified GPS beacon. Hit a switch. Silent. Her eyes narrowed. She reached for her phone, but it was too late. A vibration shook the wall. In the main warehouse, alarms began to sound. Michael moved. Not fast, not violent. Efficient. She tried to reach for the desk drawer. He kicked it shut, spun her toward the filing cabinet, and pressed her wrist against the metal. "How deep does it go?" he hissed. She looked at him, not afraid, but not in control anymore. "You're too late. The shipments are already out. Phoenix, Louisville, Seattle." Michael stared into her eyes, looking for the crack, the lie. But she wasn't bluffing. He pulled her phone. No lock screen. Rookie mistake. The last text read, "Donahue compromised. Initiate burn." He grabbed the tablet and bolted from the room. Out in the store, people were being herded toward the exits. A fire alarm blared. Smoke, artificial, began to spread from vents. Not fire suppression, obfuscation. Someone had planned for failure. He ducked into the loading bay. Empty, but something felt wrong. He checked the tablet. 3 blinking dots, GPS tags, live. Moving fast, away from the store. Couriers. The SSD he'd stolen was a decoy. The real cargo had left hours ago. He was behind. Then a 4th dot appeared. Stationary. Close. He zoomed in. Storage room D on site. Michael ran. Down the narrow hall. Past stacked paper towels and clearance items. He kicked open the door to storage D and froze. A young man sat bound to a chair, mouth gagged, duct tape around his wrists, blood on his shirt. It was the real store manager. The man he'd met earlier, the one with a headset, was the infiltrator. Michael stepped in, pulled the gag free. "Who did this to you?" The manager gasped, coughing blood. She said, "They needed your face. Said you'd show." Michael's eyes narrowed. His cover had been used to move product, his identity weaponized. He wasn't chasing ghosts anymore. He was chasing copies of himself. He left the real manager with a burner phone and instructions. Stay hidden. Call the number on the back card only when the sun was up. Then Michael vanished into the haze outside, the Houston heat clinging like regret. The stolen tablet buzzed softly against his side. He wasn't even halfway to the truth, and now he had to catch up to himself. He booked a red-eye to Phoenix using an alias he hadn't used in years, not one from his military file, but from a false identity assigned during a failed contract gig in Caracas. That alias was buried, or so he thought. At the airport, the TSA scanner gave a soft chirp. Nothing suspicious, except the look the agent gave him. A pause, a flick of the eyes to a second monitor, and then a polite nod. "Have a good flight, Mr. Dunn." That name hadn't been spoken aloud since the explosion. Phoenix greeted him with dry heat and dirty skies. He moved quickly, rented a car, kept the radio off, drove through a maze of warehouse districts until he found it. A low-slung building posing as a textile outlet. A ghost address on a real GPS map. He parked 2 blocks away, walked in through the back fence. Security cameras were there, but some had plastic bags twisted over them. That wasn't just negligence. That was signaling. Inside, the place was gutted. Pallets and cardboard shells. A freight lift that hadn't worked in months. And then he saw it. A mirror. In the middle of the floor. He approached slowly. His reflection stared back, older, wearier, but not alone. The reflection shifted. Behind him, a man stepped into view. Same building, same stance, nearly the same face. "You finally caught up," the double said. Michael's pulse stayed even. "How long?" "Since Atlanta," the copy replied. "That was the first time they tested full biomatch deployment. You walked out, I walked in. No one noticed." The room around them was not empty, not anymore. Shapes moved in the upper catwalks. Not guards, observers. This was a stage. "They used you as a template," the copy said, "and now they want the original off the board." Michael didn't speak. He knew what this was now. Identity laundering. Surveillance gaps disguised as theft. False logistics layered over real ones. The copy smiled. And it was his smile. Not practiced, not faked, learned. "I'm not here to kill you," the double said. "I'm here to ask for help." Michael raised a brow. "They're moving up the timeline. Louisville was a dry run. Seattle is real. They'll use your face again, this time in a mass casualty drill. But it won't be a drill." Michael took a breath, slow. "How do I stop it?" "You don't, but we can." The mirrors shimmered, a two-way. Voices echoed from behind. Men in suits, one shouting, "Target confirmed." Michael turned to the double. "Move now, or they'll pin us both." They moved in sync, like twins trained by the same ghost. Out the back, across rooftops, disappearing into the burning Arizona air. Together, they ran. And behind them. The countdown began. They didn't stop running until dawn. The desert cooled just enough for breath to come easy. But Michael's mind stayed sharp. Phoenix was behind them, but what lay ahead was worse. Seattle, 10 hours to go. If they didn't intercept the payload, hundreds would die, and Michael would take the blame. They stopped outside a nondescript data farm on the Nevada border. The double, who now called himself Locke, explained on the way. The Seattle op was designed as a drill, involving food security and crowd control. A staged shortage, manufactured panic, but real damage. Enough to crash public trust, tip the scales on pending legislation, rewrite surveillance laws. And Michael's face would be the one caught sabotaging it. "They need a villain the public trusts," Locke said. "A veteran, a ghost, someone plausible, broken, and forgotten." "They chose wrong," Michael replied. Inside the data farm, Locke showed him the router logs, loops of encrypted directives bouncing between shell servers. Every location they'd hit was part of a supply chain map that didn't appear on any federal registry. Not DHS, not DOD, not even private. This network was freelance, built by someone ex-government, now gone rogue. "Seattle goes live at 3 p.m. Pacific," Locke said. "Then we have 8 hours," Michael replied. They split. Locke went north to intercept the dummy convoy. Michael flew commercial under a State Department alias he hadn't touched since 2007. By noon, he was in downtown Seattle, standing in front of a warehouse labeled as a maritime supply depot. He didn't knock. The inside smelled like ammonia and fake lemon. Crates stacked to the ceiling. Uniformed staff, too disciplined, too alert. Private security, ex-military, not guarding supplies, guarding the lie. Michael moved past them like fog. Down a hall, into a server room. He planted the drive Locke had given him, triggered the silent override. "Donahue?" a voice said from behind. He turned. A woman stood there, not the same from Houston. This one was older, familiar. "You were the last loose thread," she said. "Funny," Michael muttered. "I was thinking the same about you." She reached for a weapon. Too slow. Michael closed the gap and dropped her to the ground, gently. As she lost consciousness, she whispered, "They'll just make another." He uploaded the data, then the truth. At 2:56 p.m., every major news network interrupted their feed. A video played, grainy, real. Michael detailing the fake ops, naming shell companies, listing officials, showing the double, showing them all. Public reaction exploded. Seattle was evacuated, quietly, peacefully. Nothing happened, and that was the point. Michael disappeared again, but now with choice. Months later, a small headline appeared in a defense journal. Anonymous tip leads to arrest of rogue logistics executive. Military faces internal audit. In a motel on the outskirts of Missoula, Montana, Michael watched the snow fall. His reflection in the window looked older, but it was his. Whole. The phone buzzed. One message. "Next door." "Same deal. You in?" Michael smiled. "Inventory begins again."